Um, Thanks for being here. Today, Virgo, uh, okay, I need you to stay calm with me for this one. Because what's coming through right now, I almost don't know how to hold it myself. So take a breath, settle into wherever you are, and let this reach you. There is a particular kind of storm that doesn't announce itself with thunder. It arrives instead as a shift in the light, a subtle, almost imperceptible change in the quality of the air around you, the kind that makes you look up from whatever ordinary thing you were doing and realize, without being able to explain how you know, that something in the atmosphere has fundamentally changed. That the world you're standing in is not quite the same world you were standing in an hour ago. Something like that may be happening around you right now. Not on the surface, where everything still looks familiar, still moves at the same pace, still carries the same weight of ordinary days. But underneath, in the deep current beneath the visible, something enormous may be turning in your direction. I want to talk about what it means when a person decides to change their entire life. Not adjust it, not modify the edges, not make the small, manageable concessions that allow someone to feel like they're growing without actually disturbing anything fundamental. I mean, the real thing, the complete reorientation of a life. The decision to look at everything they've constructed, the habits, the patterns, the carefully maintained distance between themselves and the things that truly frighten them, and choose with full awareness of what it costs to let it all shift. That decision doesn't come easily. It doesn't come quickly. And it almost never comes from nowhere. Think of it this way. Imagine a river that has been running in the same channel for decades, carving its path deeper and deeper into the same groove, moving faster and faster in the same direction, so accustomed to its own current that the idea of flowing differently has stopped feeling like a possibility and started feeling like a violation of something fundamental about its nature. That river doesn't change course because the water decides to try harder. It changes course because something appears in its path, something solid, something real, something that cannot be flowed around or worn down or simply ignored, that redirects everything. You may be that something for someone. This reflection invites you to consider, have you ever sensed in the particular way this person looks at you or listens to you or exists differently in your presence than they seem to exist anywhere else, that you represent something to them that goes beyond what either of you has named out loud? Because there is a specific quality to the way certain people look at the things that are about to change their lives. It isn't always obvious. It doesn't always look like adoration or intensity or any of the dramatic expressions we associate with profound feeling. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like a person who has been in motion their entire life suddenly finding in your presence a reason to stop and discovering, with some combination of relief and terror, that the stopping feels more like arriving than like losing something. Some of you watching this have been in the presence of someone who is quietly, privately in the middle of the most significant reckoning of their adult life. And the reckoning is happening, at least in part, because of you, because something about the specific frequency of who you are has illuminated, by contrast, everything in their current life that no longer fits, everything they've been tolerating rather than choosing, everything they've been calling contentment that was actually just the absence of something they didn't know they were missing until you arrived and showed them what its presence feels like. This reflection invites you to consider, what is it about the way you exist, not what you do, not what you offer, but simply the way you are, that may be holding up a mirror to this person and showing them a version of life they hadn't previously believed was available to them? Because that is a significant thing to be for someone, and it carries weight in both directions. On one side, there is something extraordinary about being the catalyst for another person's becoming, about being the presence that cracked something open in someone who had been sealed for a very long time. On the other side, there is the question of what that means for you, what it asks of you, what it changes about the dynamic between you, and whether you are ready to be someone's reason for an entire life reorganizing itself. I want to sit with that question for a moment because I think it deserves more space than it usually gets in conversations like this one. We talk a great deal about the person doing, the changing, the courage it requires, the losses it involves, the magnitude of choosing to rewrite the story of your own life midway through. But we talk less about what it feels like to be the one someone is changing toward, to be the horizon someone is walking in the direction of, with everything they're carrying and everything they're setting down. It can feel like a gift, and it can feel like a weight, and it is quite possibly both of those things at exactly the same time. This reflection invites you to consider, if this person were to truly change their entire life, and if some portion of that change were oriented around you, what would you need to feel genuinely safe enough to receive that without either shrinking from it or being overwhelmed by it? Because here is something that I think is important to name clearly and carefully. Someone reorganizing their life in your direction is not by itself a guarantee of anything. Change that is beautiful in its intention still needs to be sustainable in its execution. A river that redirects its course dramatically still needs somewhere real to flow. And the most loving thing you can do for yourself and genuinely for them is to be honest about what you can hold, what you need, and what you require from a connection before you allow it to reorganize you in return. Some of you watching this have a tendency to receive other people's grand gestures by immediately shrinking your own needs in response, as though the magnitude of what they're offering creates an obligation to ask for less, as though the right response to someone choosing you is to make yourself easier to have chosen. And I want to gently, firmly say no. The right response to someone choosing you is to be exactly who you are, with exactly the needs and the depth and the specificity that you actually carry, because that is who they are choosing. And anything less than that is a kindness that ultimately serves neither of you. There is a kind of love that announces itself through transformation, not the dramatic, performative transformation of someone trying to impress you, but the slower, quieter, more costly transformation of someone who has looked at their own life honestly in the unflattering light that real feeling tends to produce, and decided that certain things no longer make sense. Certain distances no longer feel worth maintaining. Certain walls no longer feel worth the energy it takes to keep them standing. And in the rubble of those walls, something new is trying to find its shape. something that has your name in it, somewhere in the architecture of its becoming. This reflection invites you to consider, if you allowed yourself to fully believe that someone is willing to change the entire direction of their life because of who you are, not what you do for them, not how you make them feel in specific moments, but who you fundamentally are, what would that require you to believe about your own worth? Because that ultimately is the real conversation beneath this one, not what they are doing or planning or moving toward, but what their movement asks you to accept about yourself. The worthiness of being someone's turning point, the legitimacy of being someone's reason, the possibility that you are not too complicated, not too much, not too layered, or demanding or difficult to love consistently, but precisely, exactly, specifically enough to make someone look at their entire life and decide it needs to be different. The power is yours. It always has been. Not the power to manage what this person chooses or to control the speed at which their transformation unfolds or to decide for them what their life should look like on the other side of this, but the power to decide with clarity and self knowledge and the particular grace of someone who knows their own value, how you want to meet what is moving toward you. Don't freak out. This person wants to change their entire life for you. Not eventually already, in the quiet reckoning happening beneath every ordinary interaction, in the private inventory they are taking of what matters and what doesn't, in the slowly shifting weight of a life beginning to lean with increasing certainty in your direction. Trust yourself with this. You are someone worth changing for. You have always been. And the most powerful thing you can do right now is let yourself believe that fully, without apology, without qualification. I want to hear from you in the comments because this one feels like it landed somewhere deep. Has someone ever shown you through their actions rather than their words that you were changing something fundamental in how they see their own life, and how did that feel to carry? And what is the one thing you would most need from someone to feel truly safe enough to be someone's reason for everything changing? Drop it below. I read every single word, and this space holds all of it. See you in the next one. And listen, the fact that someone is willing to change their entire world to include you more fully is not something to run from. It is something to rise into.